Welcome to Tech Tuesdays. In this series, we will explore many aspects of music and technology and how it can enhance your core worship service, live and online. In this first episode, we're going to look at a basic audio setup for your live service. A sound system is comprised of three main components: a source, like a microphone or a guitar, a console, like a mixer, and an output, like speakers. First, let's look at our console. A console takes inputs like microphones, guitars, keyboards, and routes the audio signal to the outputs. The outputs then send that signal to your amplifiers and speakers. Let's take a look at the back of our mixing console. Up along the top, we have our inputs. They all correspond to a separate channel on the mixer. Down below, we have our outputs. These are your main left-right outputs that go to your speakers. Beside those, we have our other outputs that are set up by different buses. A bus is basically a mix that's separate from your main left-right that can go out to various different monitors or to a live stream. As you can see, each channel has two different types of inputs. Up here we have 1/4 inch inputs, and down below it we have XLR inputs. So if you look at a microphone, you'll see a connector on the bottom. That's an XLR connector. So we can plug an XLR cable into the microphone and plug the other end of the cable into one of the inputs on the back. In this case, we'll plug into channel 1. On an XLR cable, you'll notice there's 3 pins on one end and 3 ports on the other end. The end with the pins is the male end, and the end with the ports is the female end. The flow of the audio runs in the direction the pins are pointing, so it would run into the female end of the cable and out of the male end. Alright, so now that we've got our microphone plugged in, we're halfway there. Now we need to look at our outputs. These here are your outputs from your board. On most mixing consoles, they come in both XLR and 1/4 inch. Here we have our main left-right. That's where we're going to be sending our audio for the main speakers. There's 2 different types of speakers: passive speakers, which require an amplifier to run them, and powered speakers, which have the amplifier built in. In this case, we're running into an amplifier which powers the passive speakers. So we have to run our XLR cables from our amplifier into the outputs of our board, of our main left-right. Now that we're all hooked up and we've added a source, our microphone, we need to look at how the rest of the board works. We'll start at the bottom of the board. These are your faders. They control the volume of each of those individual channels. This is your main fader. This controls the volume going out to the outputs. If you select main left-right up here, it will control the main left-right outputs. You can select your other outputs along here, but we won't go over those yet. So with main left-right selected, let's test out our microphone. We'll bring our main fader up to 0 as a base point. Now let's make sure that our microphone is on, and we'll slowly bring up channel 1 while testing the mic. Test, 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 1, 2, 3, testing, testing. And there we go, we have a sound system. Now we need to get into what all these other knobs do. On this main screen here, you can see there's many of the functions that would be on an analog board built into that screen because this is a digital board. Our important term for today is gain. Gain is the input level of a signal. If a source, our microphone in this case, is too quiet when the fader is set at 0, we can turn up the gain. If it's too loud, we can reduce the gain. You can control the gain with this knob to adjust the volume of the microphone. We've been using a digital mixer through this setup, but not everyone has a digital mixer. This is an analog mixer. It has a lot of the same functions as a digital board, but they're controlled slightly differently. Here's the faders. They haven't changed. Neither have the main faders, except that now they're able to control left and right separately. The inputs are at the top of the board. The outputs are over here on the side of the board. And your gain knobs are in the top row of knobs for each channel. An important tip to having a successful mix is to get all of the channels to be at a good level around 0. This is how we can do that. Balancing out the channels to 0 on the faders is important for a couple of reasons. First, when you turn on your board to get it ready for your service, you can be confident that the channels, when put to around 0, will be approximately the correct volume, so it removes the guesswork. Second, if you notice the numbers beside the faders, they start at -40, and increments get smaller as you get closer to 0. That means the fidelity, or the amount of fine control with the fader, is more near 0. Once we've set the gain correctly for each channel, we're done our basic setup. Thanks for watching the first episode of Tech Tuesdays. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email me. My email is on the screen and in the description down below. And I'll see you next week.